Welcome back to the second episode of What If Naruto called A Power of Sage of Sixth Path. In the previous episode, we have seen that Naruto got chased by a civilian mob and got beaten, and after that he came inside his mind escape and gained a power similar to Sage of Sixth Path because some jabbering fusion, and after that let's see what will happen after Naruto woke up in the hospital. So, let's begin. And if you are new to this series, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for upcoming episode. So, let's start.
Naruto spent the next day in a hospital recovering from what the Hokage had declared was some severe trauma that was caused due to an attempt on his life by the villagers, and many of whom had not managed to get away before the Anbu had shown up were arrested, and at least a couple who had swords in their possessions were in jail, awaiting their fates. The Hokage had decided that 2 people would be executed as they had violated the direct orders of the Hokage himself by attacking Naruto Uzumaki. Once Naruto had recovered, he was let out. However, the Hokage had silently put an Anbu on his trail as he was worried that this was not the last of all the horrible incidents that seemed to happen when Naruto was around. However, once the villagers seemed to have been scared away from Naruto, he took the tail off and just had them guard his apartment at night. The old man had been so busy that Naruto did not even get a chance to ask for the scrolls like his father had instructed him to. He decided to do that at another day, while he would now work on trying to figure out how to use his eyes to their full effect. This was proving to be more difficult than Naruto had expected it to be. For one thing, the fox did not seem to know much about the eyes. The things he did know, he wouldn't tell Naruto, as the Kyuubi was of the opinion that attempting those kinds of things would for all intents and purposes finish off Naruto for good. So for the moment Naruto was just working on his gravity manipulation. He had discovered that not only did he have the ability to push things away, called the Shinra Tensei, he also had the ability to attract things to himself. This was the Bansho Tenon. Naruto had not quite perfected the abilities yet, however he was getting better at it. Presently he was training with his gravity manipulation. The fox had him go away from the village as he did not want anyone to know about the powers his container had. Naruto had decided that this was a good plan of action as this would keep people in the dark. He was also sure that the attempts on taking his life would escalate if he was found to be so powerful, and those eyes of his would be hunted down. Even the old man was not told of those eyes. Naruto couldn't ever use those eyes in the village because the fox had detected something that had been watching them and had deemed it not safe enough to be trusted, so that had put a rest to Naruto's aim of showing off his talents to anyone in the academy. The academy was another cause of concern. August had approached and they were in the 2nd year of studies. There would be only 4 more years before Naruto would be able to participate in missions and would finally take a shot at accomplishing his dream of becoming Hokage. However, the teachers, he realized, were the real problem. Not only had they discriminated in their opinions of him, he wasn't really thought by anyone. All of them just ignored him when he tried some sort of a prank, or they just let him do his own thing. No one cared if he showed up or not. No one cared if he slept in class. They just gave him a cold shoulder, while the laziest boy in class, Shikamaru, was scolded all the time for sleeping. This only made Naruto really sad as this was not what his father had wanted for him. His father had hoped that he would be treated as a hero for keeping a demon fox within him, and yet that never happened. Instead, he was just ignored and not acknowledged or helped. Oh man, he thought. If they knew who my father was, I bet they wouldn't treat me like the way they do now. Naruto, a voice called out to him. Come into my seal. Just close your eyes now, the teachers will not mind anyway. Naruto nodded before entering the seal. What is it, Kurama? he asked the fox. The fox snorted. He had told Naruto that he preferred being called the Great Kyuubi no Kitsune. However, it hadn't worked on the blonde. The kid just insisted on calling him Kurama. This angered him a lot, however this was important and he had decided that for now, he wouldn't pay any attention to this minor mistake. I hope you are not thinking of doing something as stupid as telling all these stupid people about your father and mother, it said. Naruto smiled upon hearing that. Why the hell would I do that now? I am not dumb Kurama. Which is surprising because just a few days ago I would not be able to say that about myself, he said shrugging. What do you mean, Kit? The fox asked him, out of curiosity. I used to view myself as a loser, and I did everything I ever did just to get some attention. I became a class clown because I thought I could get Sakura's attention, but deep down even I knew that the villagers hated me because I was a useless piece of trash. But ever since I learnt about my father and the legacy I have to uphold, everything has changed. I feel more alive. I feel different, he finished. Well, I don't know why you would view yourself as a total loser, because a Jinchuriki is a really strong person, but you did not know that, so I can understand, the fox said, his tone resembling one of a man with years of wisdom. In that respect, you are like your mother, Kit. She was pure-hearted too. I must say, being sealed in bodies of such pure hearts may have made me go a bit soft, but that does not matter. This was another thing that had bothered Naruto. His mother, according to Kyuubi, had been a Jinchuriki herself. However, every day Naruto asked Kurama what had happened and how he had broken free. The fox just shrugged as he could not remember a single thing. Naruto sighed, as he would have loved to know what had happened. All Naruto knew was that someone had taken control of the fox. However, the fox would only refer to that person as that man, and never ever gave Naruto his name. Kit, come back to solid ground. I wanted to talk to you about something, the fox said. Naruto sat down, eager to listen to what it was the fox wanted to say to him. The rinnegan you have is slightly mutated thanks to my chakra. For example, you are capable of turning it on or off at will, which is a big gift. The eyes itself do not drain your chakra in a noticeable way, so I guess you are okay there. You are also able to harness all the 5 basic elements. Naruto smiled. He had remembered that day. The fox had him steal some chakra-conductive paper from the hands of one of the chunin. The paper had then split into 5. One part was wrinkled, the other was wet, another had turned to dust, another had burned, and the last one was slashed to bits when Naruto had channeled chakra through those papers. This indicated that he had all the 5 natures. He was also capable of using these elements without the rinnegan activated. The fox had explained this by suggesting that the eyes had changed his genetic makeup, which was the point he was going to get to now. Now, you must remember how I had you train in your water element, as I remember your mother training with it, he said. Naruto nodded. The aim with water training was simple. Be able to manipulate water bodies just by using his water chakra. He was asked to go to a pond and try and work on it. However, he had not had much success. He had barely been able to summon the water chakra to do it. Instead of being able to extract torrents of water as he had hoped, he only managed to get some drops out. Kurama had told him that this would take some time as nature manipulation is hard. Kurama himself had never ever needed to use nature manipulation, as he had only one move, the tailed beast bomb, which did not need any nature manipulation. So Kurama did not have any idea as to how to do it. He only remembered Kushina using the training. Well, Kit, I think the genetic chakra you have is changing, thanks to using the water chakra you have, the fox said. What does that mean? Naruto asked him. Well, Kit, The first ever Hokage of Konohagakure, Hashirama Senju, was capable of using wood release, which was the combination of water and earth natures. This was because when he was born, his genetic chakras had mixed up, thus giving another kind of chakra, the wood chakra. Now, thanks to my own chakra mutating the rinnegan, the genetics of yours have changed drastically, but I think that thanks to you harnessing the water chakra you have, it has begun mixing with all the other elements in your body. The process is slow and will take a long time to actually complete, about 5 to 6 years. However, the more you use the chakras, the more you should be able to mix them with each other, and thus you are more likely to be able to use those special elements, the fox said. Naruto stared at the fox open-mouthed. You mean to say that I will be able to use wood release if I train in water chakra? The fox nodded. Basically it's like ramen. Now ramen has noodles and broth. Noodles and broth both taste good separately, but they get better when they combine, don't they? Now similarly, by using the water chakra you have, you are forcing the chakras to combine, and thanks to your redefined genetic makeup, this is not going to affect you in the way it should have. Generally, combining nature chakras blows up in one's face. I have heard that some have died trying to force it, but my chakra seems to have made you immune to it. Now if only— The fox paused when he realized that Naruto was not concentrating anymore. As a matter of fact, Naruto was drooling. Hey, what the hell, Kit? Can you stop with the daydreams about ramen and focus on what I am trying to tell you? It shouted, causing Naruto to snap out of it. Sorry, what were you saying? Naruto asked Kyuubi, grinning sheepishly as the fox sighed. Look, consider a soup bowl. By using your water chakra, consider yourself putting some of it into the bowl. Now as you practice more with water, you put more into the bowl. Then you put some earth chakra into the bowl, thus creating wood chakra. In this way, by practicing with all the elements, you should be able to mix up and be able to access all the sub-elemental chakras, the fox said. Naruto's eyes widened. So I should be able to use wood release? He asked the fox. The fox nodded. Not just that, but also, as far as I know, you can use wood, ice, boil, and storm releases as well. Congratulations. You have far too much power that you will be able to harness than you should, the fox said, sighing. Naruto began jumping up and down with excitement. Yata, he shouted. I am awesome. Now I can become Hokage and protect these people, he said, dancing around. The surroundings in his mindscape were suddenly filled with ramen-like scents. This was something the Kyuubi couldn't explain. Your son is just like Kushina and looks like Minato. I can't help but think that he is going to be like father. I wonder where the others Bijus are. I wonder if they will be able to sense what I have been able to about him, he thought to himself. Kit, stop dancing now, just get out and leave me. After doing that much thinking, I like sleeping, the fox said, sighing. Naruto nodded and left the mindscape. Naruto returned to the mortal plane from his mindscape and opened his eyes. Looking around, he realized that something was not right. Everyone in the class was looking at him. Naruto gulped as he turned, only to be met by the gaze of their new Chunin instructor for the next few years. His name was Iruka Amino. Naruto sighed. This instructor was not looking too happy about Naruto napping, but he knew that just like every other instructor he ever had, this one would just ignore him too. However, that did not happen. Naruto Uzumaki, Iruka shouted, if I catch you asleep in my class again, I will hit you harder, Iruka said, threateningly. Harder than what? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Harder than this, Iruka said, before bonking Naruto on the head and leaving him with a lump. The class laughed while even Iruka seemed to have cracked up a little at the scene that had ensued. This guy is different, Naruto thought. He actually did something. He acknowledged me. Wonder why he did that. I mean, he had taught us before, so why was he so concerned about me sleeping now? I wonder what is up. He mused, scratching his head. Now focus in class, Naruto. This is very important, he said. Naruto sighed, and decided to act like the class clown again, as this was going to be his mask for the next few years. This is all useless, Iruka-sensei. Come on and teach us some jutsus so that I can defeat the Hokage, Naruto said, pumping his fists up and down. Iruka sighed. Naruto, you are too young to actually learn jutsu, but by listening to the theory of it all you will be able to learn it better, so just do as I say and it will be alright. Okay? Iruka asked Naruto, who nodded. As if a baka like you can learn anything, a certain pink-haired girl who Naruto thought he had liked screeched. Naruto sighed. He had to be in fake love with her for the next few years. What a drag, he thought, doing his best Shikamaru lazy face at Sakura instead of pouting while the class laughed. Not only was he forced to bear some humiliation, he was also going to have to concentrate in class, and he did not like this one bit. He decided that it was time to zone out and began daydreaming about all the asses he would kick when he had mastered the wood style. Naruto had managed sneaking out of Mizuki-sensei's class later on in the day. After Iruka's class was over, Naruto had been so bored that he had to sneak out. He had been thinking about going to the ramen store when he saw a grown man who had really bushy eyebrows and was wearing a green-colored bodysuit. This man looked extremely creepy, but even then, Naruto had to admit that he looked strong. There was another boy who had bushy brows and was wearing a blue-colored shirt and pants. Naruto found this eerie resemblance between the two people really creepy, and so he had to do it. Who are you? The little boy had asked the man, who smiled and began posing enthusiastically. I am Konoha's sublime green beast of prey, Might Guy, he said, before sticking out his thumb and posing with a smile that made his teeth sparkle. The whole thing creeped Naruto out, however it did not really have the same effect on the small boy, who was smiling. I am Rock Lee, no nickname, but I really like the word Mounties, he said, posing in the same way that Guy had posed a minute ago. Naruto's sweat dropped at this. This was crazy, the whole thing, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off this. The big man, named Might Guy, seemed to be impressed though. Ah, you burn with the flames of youth. Maybe when you become genin, I shall train you, he said. The kid named Lee smiled. Yes, but I cannot channel chakra, the kid said. I have a birth defect which made it impossible for me to channel any chakra whatsoever. I cannot become a ninja, Lee said sadly. Even Naruto felt sad at this. This kid was weird, but he did not deserve it. Nonsense, I am Junin and even I know only one technique that can help me that requires ninjutsu, the man named Guy said, before making hand seals. Naruto perked up. No one to teach him any jutsu whatsoever, so he would have to see this. He memorized the seals that the Junin had made. He also realized that the Junin had made a contribution of blood before using the technique. Kuchiyose no jutsu. He looked on to see what would happen, and suddenly from out of nowhere a turtle appeared. Whoa, Naruto said out loud. This caused Lee and Guy to look in Naruto's general direction. The turtle vanished as Guy and Lee both turned towards the direction from which the voice had come. Come out, spy, that is most unyouthful of you to hide like that, Might Guy said, causing Naruto to shudder. However, he realized that his jig was up. He reluctantly came out, with a grin on his face. I am sorry, but I was so impressed by your introduction that I had to stay, Naruto lied, trying to calm down the Junin who had a stoic face. Upon hearing this, guy cracked up. Ah, another youthful student who uses his energy to play pranks on the entire village. I did not know you were a fan of flashy entrances, Naruto Uzumaki, Might Guy said enthusiastically. I shall show you the nice guy pose, for I am extremely happy with what has happened here today, he said. Naruto tried to stop him, however Might Guy posed in the same way he had posed in front of Lee. Might Guy then turned to Lee, failing to notice the look on Naruto's face, one of complete horror, and said, I shall train you so that you become a ninja that uses only taijutsu, my own style, called Goken, or the strong fist, when I find the time, so that by your impressive skills, you allow your youth to shine, the man said to Lee, who lit up immediately. Hey, Guy-san, Naruto called out to Might Guy. Can you teach me too? He asked. Guy smiled at Naruto's question. Two youthful students, he said. It is good to know that Konoha is going to have shinobi that are going to show the flames of youth to the whole wide world. However, I have already taken Lee as my apprentice, he said, changing his tone from a happy one to a somber one. Naruto nodded. He understood. Lee had just somehow beaten him to a taijutsu trainer. Despite being weird, the Might Guy seemed like a nice person. He knew who Naruto was, however did not seem to have any prejudice against him. Might Guy saw the look on Naruto's face and began crying. Oh, how can I deny a person wanting to show off his youth? Might Guy screamed. Lee nodded. Hi, Guy-sensei. You simply have to train Naruto-kun here so that his flames of youth can shine bright, Rock Lee said. Naruto gulped. It was like they had found each other's soulmates here. Well, not Goken, but I presume I can give you another style that you might learn from a scroll, and then you can spar with me and Lee in practice. He asked Naruto, who nodded enthusiastically. Ah, yes, this is a very admirable solution indeed. As a matter of fact, I have just the style for you. You seem to be the kind of person who will be athletic, so you need something that allows you to flow in battle. This is the flowing palm style, Guy said, in a way that sounded really regal. The flowing palm? Naruto asked him. Yes, this is a very youthful style, much like my own Goken. This is a very beneficial to the user. I had trained in this before I created my own style. The aim is to attack and defend at the same time. Here you go, he said, handing Naruto the scroll. Now my youthful students, go and practice. Let the flames of your youth shine. Lee, I shall train you tomorrow at Training Ground 11. Be there at 5 in the morning. Naruto-kun, you can come as well, he said, before sunshining away. Rock Lee introduced himself to Naruto the same way Guy had, and Naruto realized that Guy had already corrupted Lee. As soon as Lee had left, Naruto had traveled back to his apartment, where he opened the scroll with flowing palm written on it. Flowing palm, he began reading out aloud. The purpose of this fighting style, like most of the boundless fist, is to attack while being able to defend at the same time. By engaging an attack enemy, striking though their center, yielding, following though, relaxing, nullify enemy's force, use enemy's force against them, and adding their own force. The user is able to quickly attack the enemy and defend at the same time. He finished. This style could indeed prove useful. He spent the night practicing the style of taijutsu. Naruto spent the next few weeks training with Lee and Guy. Lee seemed to be a taijutsu genius with really amazing determination. Naruto had become competent in the flowing palm technique, including having learnt a taijutsu known as focus point, which was basically like the Juken that the Hyuga used, except it was really precise and 2 hits could shut down an organ completely. However, Naruto realized that he was not a taijutsu kind of guy. However, he had a really strange experience when he attempted a ninjutsu. He had still not asked the old man for the scrolls, and his own engrossment with the flowing palm had made him forget the Kuchio's no jutsu that guy had used in front of him. However, today he was going to learn it. No one had told him that a contract was needed to summon the animals, and he had a smed that the jutsu summoned turtles, or maybe it summoned whatever the user was thinking of. He decided he wanted to summon a giant bird and activated his rinnegan, pure instinct telling him to do so. He bit his thumb and made the seals, imagining a giant eagle as he cried out, "Kuchio's no jutsu." The result was instantaneous. An eagle materialized out of nowhere. It also had drained a significant amount of Naruto's chakra. Naruto still had plenty, but he looked at the eagle in a strange fashion.
"How'd I tell you what to do?" he asked the eagle. "Kit," came Kyuubi's voice from within the mindscape. "Just think about what you want to do, and never attempt anything that dangerous without waking me up first. A summoning jutsu requires a contract of some sort, but you do not need it. This must be due to those eyes of yours," he said. Naruto nodded. "Flap your wings," he thought, looking at the eagle. The eagle immediately flapped its wings. "This is so cool," he said, enthusiastically as he climbed aboard the eagle. "Now fly high enough so that no one can make out that it's me. Then take me around the village," he said. Sure enough, Naruto spent that day flying around the village instead of training, and he did it till he realized that he did not have enough chakra left. The eagle vanished as soon as he hit ground and Naruto slumped over, unconscious. Naruto realized that the advantages of the rinnegan was that he could summon any animal he wanted and could control it with his thoughts, which he began training himself in. He also began working on his reserves, which were already cage level, but he wanted to be able to use the summoning jutsu to his full advantage, and he did. Soon he could summon numerous creatures without any significant loss in his chakra, which he considered was amazing for him to do. He realized that this could unlock a whole new world for him. He could use the animals to sneak around and grab some jutsu scrolls that he could then use to teach himself some useful jutsus. The fox was obviously not going to help with learning all the elemental jutsus, so maybe could grab some scrolls for himself to learn from. The possibilities were endless. Naruto cursed himself for everything that had happened. Here he was with these eyes that the Kyuubi had said were all-seeing and powerful and were possessed by the Sage of Six Paths, who was the god of all jutsu himself. And yet, thanks to who he was, he couldn't exactly brag about it, and he couldn't ask anyone for help, because no one would give it to him even if he did. Mike Guy was just one of the people in the village. Not everyone would be as intelligent as Guy to realize that what was inside him was not him, and yet, the fox was not necessarily a bad thing to have. After all these days of loneliness, the fox, no matter how cynical he was, he still was the only company Naruto had. Naruto could call him one of the few friends. Actually, apart from Lee, it seemed like Kurama was his only friend. For some reason Naruto found that really depressing, and could anyone really blame him for feeling that way? Naruto was depressed enough, and he was fed up with putting off asking the old man for what was rightfully his. So he decided that enough was enough and that he would go and ask the old man for his scrolls. The clerk in the Hokage's office was not exactly the person who Naruto would want to see on a day that he was just not in a good mood. He knew that the old man was going to be free and reading those disgusting books of his at the moment. However, the clerk, who doubled up as his secretary, was a total idiot, just like all the villagers.
She also thought that Naruto was the nine-tailed fox, and Naruto had little tolerance for people like that. As he walked up to the office, the clerk sneered upon seeing him. "I love that disgusting impression on your face," Naruto said. It was as if someone had forced him to say it, but he was glad that he did. "It makes you look constipated, so the next time someone makes that face, I know what is wrong," he said, laughing. The clerk was apparently in a bad mood too. "What do you want, demon brat?" she snarled. "A meeting with the old man," he said simply. "No way, demon brat, and treat him with some respect. He is Hokage-sama to you," she said. "Don't teach me manners, especially not ignorant fools like you. I want to talk to the Hokage, so you will let me meet him, or else." The clerk laughed. "Or else what?" she asked him. "I'll tell the Hokage that you told me that I am the Kyuubi, and you know what that means, don't you?" he said, smiling. Naruto felt bad for playing this card, however he was extremely happy to see the expression on the clerk's face. "You wouldn't dare." "I would," Naruto said, grinning evilly now. This woman was in for a shock. "So it's your call," he said. The clerk sighed and let Naruto in. Naruto smiled. "Now that is more like it," he said, smiling at the woman widely. The woman scowled at Naruto, who was proud of himself for having played that kind of a devious trick. The Hokage, just like Naruto had suspected, was reading the disgusting Uchiha Paradise books. He smiled. "I knew you were not busy, old man," he said, startling the Hokage, who rushed to hide those books in his drawer, stumbling and his face flushed because of the way Naruto had gotten the drop on him. "The Hokage cannot read stuff like this, old man. Aren't you supposed to be protecting the village and not reading porn in your office?" he asked the Hokage, who smiled. "Naruto, I have had a long day, you know, paperwork and everything, so cut me some slack, will you? I am a hard-working man, you know," he said, smiling. Naruto nodded. "Well," the Hokage said, continuing, "since you barged in like that, I am sure you have something important to say, Naruto. So spit it out, will you?" he asked Naruto, who nodded. "Yeah, I was getting to that actually. I came here for something that is mine," he said, which caused the Hokage to raise an eyebrow. "Run out of allowance? That is highly unlikely of you, Naruto," he said. "Because you usually have a lot of savings in your Gama-chan," he said, which caused Naruto to subconsciously rub the spot where the frog-shaped wallet was resting at the moment. "Not my allowance, old man," he said, causing the old man to look at him in a strange manner. "This is a secret, old man, so I want only you to hear this, okay?" he asked the Hokage, who sighed. "Okay. Well, you heard the kid. Leave," he said, clapping as suddenly two Anbu came out and left the office. "So Naruto, what do you want to tell me?" he asked Naruto, who focused some chakra to his eyes. The color of his eyes changed, causing Hokage's eyes to widen. "Is that not the Sharingan?" Naruto said, interrupting whatever the old man was going to say. "This is the rinnegan, I am sure you have heard of it," he said, causing the old man to look like he had a heart attack as he fell back on his chair, slumping further. "What the hell?" he asked the old man, who was sunk back in his chair. "Are you okay, old man?" he asked him, who nodded. "Yes, I am fine, but this is shocking. Do you have any idea how you got it?" he asked Naruto, who shook his head. Although technically he did. The fox had told him not to mention how he got it to anyone. "So that is what happened when the villagers attacked you. It wasn't the fox, was it?" he asked Naruto, referring to the incident 2 weeks ago when a mob was found lying because they foolishly attacked him. "Way to execute 2 of those civilians, old man. They have stopped attacking me lately," I know that they should not have died, however I guess it worked out fine for me, he said. I have no idea what those eyes of yours can do, he said, still staring at his eyes. Naruto smiled. Well, for one thing, I have nature control and I can actually mix to create sub-elements. So you are looking at a future wood user, he said with a hint of pride in his voice. Also, I can summon animals without needing a contract, and I seem to have really increased grasping abilities and good control. However, I need some scrolls, old man. I really need to train. I mean, my father gave you some scrolls of his, right? I mean, I heard that every Hokage leaves some sort of scroll for his successor in case of a sudden death. He asked the old man, who paled. Yes, I know my father is the Yondaime. To think about it, the resemblance is really uncanny, isn't it? He asked the old man. I am sorry, Naruto, I would have told you, but… Save it, old man, I know you did it to protect me, I can understand, but you can make it up to me by giving me the scrolls my father left for me, he said. He then told the Hokage about everything that had happened the day the mob had attacked him. The old man nodded. Well, there are some things that you are not really ready for yet, but if you say that you have some good chakra control, I think I will give you this, he said, pulling out a scroll from the shelf behind him which had the kanji for spiral on it. This is your father's prized technique. It is an A-ranked jutsu known as the rinnegan. Your father had created this jutsu and it took him 3 years to do it, but I think you will be able to do it faster than that, he said, smiling as he gave Naruto the scroll. It's a blood scroll. Only someone with the DNA of your father running through his veins could open that. Try it, he said. Naruto bit his thumb and put some blood in the scroll, which opened instantly. So I need some water balloons and air balloons. What the hell? He said, looking at the Hokage. It involves shape manipulation of chakra. You rotate the chakra with speed fast enough that can drill through almost anything, he said, smiling at Naruto's expression. So this is the kind of jutsu my dad made, huh? He asked the Hokage, who nodded. I also have something else I would like you to start. Seeing that you are the son of your father and mother, I will give you this, he said, pulling out a green book. On the book was written, The Basics of Sealing Arts. Fuinjutsu is a very intricate art, Naruto. However, both of your parents were extremely good at it, and it runs in your blood, so I need you to read this, he said. Naruto nodded. This was gold. He was getting a lot of stuff from the Hokage. Now I am sure you are aware of the high chakra reserves your tenant brings, that along with possessing the rinnegan gives you reserves that are probably higher than me. So I can help you with something that will speed your training, he said to Naruto, who looked like a sponge at the moment, just absorbing everything that had happened up to this point. This is the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It is a Junin-level jutsu that creates solid clones, he said, writing down the hand seals. You should be able to make hundreds of clones thanks to your reserves, and get this. Whatever your clones experience, you get back. So you can see the potential in training with the clones, he said. Naruto was wide-eyed. It was like the eyes of his head left him with a quest for knowledge. This is amazing, old man, he said, literally jumping up and down in his seat as the Hokage smiled at him. This was the enthusiasm he wished Kakashi would show. The Junin was always late for each and every mission that he was assigned. Well, I think you should leave and get to training, however do not miss your academy classes, he said, which caused Naruto to groan. The next 2 months were great for Naruto. He learned the shadow clones in less than an hour, which was surprising, and he could make at least 1,000 clones, which Naruto would then split. He began practicing the flowing palm with about 100 clones. The other clones worked on the rinnegan, according to his father's scroll. He had worked on completing the rinnegan by mixing it with his nature manipulation. However, he had not been able to do it. Naruto, on the other hand, had asked the Hokage about nature manipulation, and the Hokage had given him a scroll which gave him the details on wind nature manipulation. Using his clones, he had managed cutting the leaf, however he could not find any waterfall to cut, so the training had been put on hold. However, the water training had been going along nicely. After managing to manipulate water bodies to fill a bottle, Naruto and his clones worked on the creation of torrents. He then began practicing on this relentlessly, and he had pretty much gotten the whole exercise down. Kurama had told him that thanks to the use of wind and water chakra, Naruto had finally managed creating some ice chakra. Thanks to the chakras mixing, Kurama had told him that by using the clones, he had speeded up the whole process. Naruto had found himself creating some ice by freezing the moisture around him. However, he had no ideas as to how he would go about using the ice in a jutsu. Kurama had told him to read up on hand seals and how he could use it to manipulate the whole nature of ice. Apart from training for ice, wind and water, Naruto had also been reading up on sealing, and realized that he took to sealing like a fish takes to water. He had already finished reading the book twice over and had begun working on his own ink. Sealing arts involved mixing ink with chakra and creating his own language of sealing. Any seal master was supposed to have his own brand of seals. Naruto had already done a lot of work, including some exploding seals that would not allow anyone but himself to enter his apartment without blowing themselves up. However, Naruto still got a lot of mean looks from the villagers. Even at the academy, all the girls were into Sasuke Uchiha, which really infuriated him. The fangirls were infuriating beyond measure. They all seemed to only screech and do nothing else. However, there was one experience with a fangirl that left a really bad taste in Naruto's mouth. This was one day after the academy when Naruto was reading the book on intermediate sealing arts. He had only recently acquired the book and was very happy to have found it. He was reading on how to place seals on people without using ink when he found the book snatched from his hands by Sakura Haruno. "Give me my book back," he said, looking at Sakura, who was now peering at the book she had snatched from Naruto. "No," she said. "A baka like you does not deserve to know about Fuinjutsu. Only Sasuke-kun may read about it," she said. "Give me my book back," he said, not in a mood for any of this. However, Sakura refused. "No, only Sasuke-kun may have it," she said, taking off with his book. Naruto sighed as he activated his rinnegan. "Bansho Tenin," he called out as Sakura came flying right back at Naruto, who deactivated his eyes immediately. Naruto now had Sakura by the grasp of her hair and pulled on it, causing Sakura to cry out in pain. Naruto felt bad at doing this, but he decided that the stupid fangirl needed to learn a lesson. "Give me that book, or I will cut all your hair and show it to Sasuke-kun. You know how he does not like short hair, right?" he asked her. Sakura began sweating at this. "Please don't," she said, handing Naruto the book back. "Good," Naruto said, smiling. "I hope you learned your lesson, because otherwise there will be hell to pay," he said. Sakura gulped. "How did you pull me back like that?" she asked him in ear. Naruto smiled. "I used a rope," he said, lying. However, the girl was stupid enough to believe it. "Ninja rope?" she asked him. "Yes," he said. "You wanna give some to Sasuke-kun?" he asked her in a mocking tone which made Sakura cringe. After that encounter there was not much that really happened. October 10th came around and Naruto was hunted down by the villagers. Except he had decided to spend his birthday outside the village training. He had finally managed practicing his earth-style element and had managed to produce wood chakra in his body. The wind and earth had also combined to form crystal release, which was simple enough to use and master as it just crystallized everything in the surroundings as it was used. Naruto realized that he would need to start working on the other elements, namely fire and lightning, as they would make a really good potent combination for him to use. However, at the moment he was happy with possessing different types of nature combinations. "Kid, shouldn't you be celebrating your birthday?" the fox asked him. Naruto shook his head. "No, those bastards really look for excuses to hunt me down, and I will be damned before I give them a chance," he said. "What I really need to focus on is the rinnegan," he said. He had been working on combining the rinnegan with a nature type. He had actually moved all his clones into trying to work on it, however nothing had actually come off it. "Kit, I think you should try combining wind chakra. You seem really proficient with it. Maybe that was your strongest affinity before the rinnegan came along," the fox suggested. Naruto nodded. He began working on practicing wind diffusion into the rinnegan with his clones. The practice went on for about 2 hours before Naruto called the clones to halt. He then dispelled them one by one, which took an hour in itself. "Okay," Naruto said with a determined look in his face. "Let's do this." He began infusing his wind chakra with the rinnegan, and finally, he could feel it. The blue sphere had some sort of visible wind blade coming in and out of it. That was apparently the wind chakra that was infused. "Complete," he said. "Futen. Rinnegan," he said before smashing it into a tree. What happened next was, according to Naruto, the coolest thing he had ever seen. The tree he smashed it into was completely wrecked, uprooted and cut into 3 halves. "That is a powerful jutsu," the Kyuubi said, sounding slightly awestruck. "I know, right?" Naruto said, smiling to himself. He had come a long way already. He had accomplished his father's dream of completing the rinnegan, and he did it aged 7. "Those eyes of yours, Kit, you show the talent to succeed the Sage of 6 Paths. Dare I say I am proud of my container," the fox said, with a hint of pride in his voice. "Thanks, Kurama," Naruto said, smiling. "I guess we need to start working on our wood release," he said. "I remember Hashirama Senju and his damn wood release techniques," Kyuubi said, sighing. "He had the ability to control the tailed beast," he said. "Really?" Naruto asked him. "Yes, Hashirama Senju came in contact with several tailed beasts, which he distributed among the villages, while his wife, Mito Uzumaki, sealed me into herself, thus keeping me in Konoha," the fox said. Naruto nodded. He had some scrolls for the wood release techniques, so he began practicing again. 2 more months passed before a tragedy shook Konoha. The entire Uchiha clan was massacred. Only one person, Sasuke Uchiha, had survived. Meanwhile, it was found out that Itachi Uchiha, Weasel of the Anbu, had defected the village. According to Sasuke's testimony, Itachi had killed his clan to test his abilities. Sasuke would never be the same, and nor would Konoha. It was already well known that the Uchiha clan that ran the local police force was an important asset for the village. Sasuke's behavior had changed ever since he had come back to the village. He had become more obnoxious and somewhat of a loner. Meanwhile, the fangirls found this even more cooler than before. They would not leave him alone. Naruto felt sort of bad for Sasuke, seeing as to how both of them were one of a kind. They came from a prestigious family but had no one left. For Sasuke it would be even worse, since he had grown up with a family and Naruto had never really known any parental love. Naruto would have reached out to Sasuke, but his pride got the better of him and he decided to leave Sasuke alone. Naruto on the other hand had perfected 3 of his basic elements. As a matter of fact, he had already even learnt loads of wood-style techniques and had created a few ice and crystal techniques. In January, Naruto was summoned to the Hokage's office. He had rushed over there immediately. "Naruto, I have a mission for you," the Hokage said, which caused Naruto to cough. "Mission?" he asked the Hokage. "Yes," the old man nodded. "You will go to Uzushigakure, the village from where your clan hailed, and you will be going with one of my own students," he said. The window opened to reveal a tall white-haired man with markings on his face. "Hey brat, it's me, Jiraiya, the great toad sage," he said, posing with a toad. Naruto's sweat dropped. This was going to be really something.